everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Mel. Thank you so much for joining me today for the mid-year freakout tag. As I'm sure you're aware, the mid-year freakout tag is a tag that pretty much everyone on BookTube does in the middle of the year. It was actually created by my BookTube bestie Ellie from Earl Grey Books, so you should definitely go and check out Ellie's channel. She's fantastic. Obviously, I will link her channel in the description below, so you can go and check that out and subscribe. Anyone else that I mention in this video will also be linked in the description below as well. I am actually planning on doing a best 10 books that I've read so far this year video, so keep an eye out for that. Before I actually answer any of these questions, I'm just going to answer the questions up front by saying that all of the positive questions, the answer is, in addition to everything I say, Heartstopper. You guys know I'm absolutely obsessed with it at the moment. More so the TV show, I think, than the comic books, but definitely both. So yeah, anything positive that this tag asks, the answer is also Heartstopper or Alice Oseman or something along those lines. But I'm actually going to answer each question with a different book because otherwise I might as well finish it now. So let's actually start. The first question is, what is your favourite book so far in 2022? Yep, we're starting off with the very difficult question. I've actually selected two. I just can't help myself, but the two that I have selected for my favourite books of the year so far are The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller and The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. I think The Song of Achilles is pretty popular, so I probably don't need to say a huge about it. It is a Greek legend myth retelling. We follow the story of Patroclus, who is the sort of right-hand man of Achilles in the Iliad. It's from Patroclus' perspective, and it is the friendship/love story between Patroclus and Achilles. Absolutely love the writing style in this book. I think that was my favourite thing about the book. Madeline Miller has just an absolutely beautiful way of writing. It's not purple prose, but it's definitely really lovely and flowing and lyrical. Really enjoyed it. Absolutely loved that we get it from Patroclus' perspective because we don't hear as much in mythology itself about Patroclus, and yeah, absolutely loved this one. And the other one is The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. This is a historical fiction, and we follow a young woman from when she's a very young girl up to when she's in her, I think, mid-20s. I cannot remember her name. It was a while ago that I read this book, and she is the daughter of one of the people who is involved in creating the first Oxford English Dictionary. Throughout the course of growing up in the place where they are working on the dictionary, she kind of stumbles across a bunch of different words that literally get dropped on the ground and kind of get lost. So she's building her own dictionary by collecting all of these words, and then she spends a lot of her life finding out what the words mean and why they're ignored, and it's quite a feminist historical fiction novel, and I just absolutely loved it. Loved the historical aspect of it, loved the main character, loved the feminist storytelling, and yeah, just thought it was absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Those are my two favourite books so far this year. The next question is the best sequel that you've read. I actually haven't read a huge amount of sequels so far in 2022. I have read a few, and the favourite one that I've read so far this year is Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. This is the second book in a duology, which is the Strange to Dreamer Muse of Nightmares duology. As it's the second book, I'm not going to say too much about Muse of Nightmares, but it is a very fantastical, very lyrical, whimsical writing, absolutely stunning writing style. Definitely can't get my head around Laini Taylor's imagination and the way her brain works. She just has this incredible way with words and has this amazing imagination, and the things that she's written in that book I honestly would never have thought of myself, but they are just absolutely beautifully written. Really enjoyed it. It's very heart-wrenching as well, particularly the second book. It packs a punch, and there's a lot of stuff that is explored that is quite full-on and hard to read, but beautifully done. So that was definitely my favourite sequel so far this year. Question number 3 asks for a book that has been released this year already that you haven't read yet that you would really like to read? Again, I have 2 answers for this one. So I have Electra by Jennifer Saint and I have Gallant by V.E. Schwab. So Electra is, I think, her second book. I read Ariadne and it was one of my favourite books of last year. Absolutely loved it. Loved the writing style. Greek myth retelling again, which I thought was fantastic, and again a little bit of a sort of feminist account. So I think this one is going to be similar. It is following a few different women who were involved in the Trojan War. So I think we follow Electra, obviously, we follow Cassandra, we follow Clytemnestra, maybe Briseis as well, I'm not 100% sure, but it just sounds like it's going to be really, really interesting. I loved, like I said, Ariadne, so I'm anticipating absolutely loving Electra as well. And then Gallant by V.E. Schwab was, when it came out, pretty much everywhere. Everyone was talking about it. I don't know a huge amount about this one. I think that it is a gothic sort of semi-fantasy, maybe magical realism type book. I have heard that if you loved The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, then you will love Gallant. I've only read Addie LaRue, but I absolutely loved Addie. It was, again, one of my favourite books of last year, so I'm very much anticipating really enjoying Gallant, and since I've heard that it's quite similar to Addie and that you will like it if you liked Addie, then I'm expecting to really love it. Question number 4 asks for your most anticipated book of the second half of the year, so books coming out in the later half of the year. Again, I have 2 for this one as well. First up, I have Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Alston. This is the second book in the series, the first one being Amari and the Night Brothers, which again, I absolutely loved when I read it last year. Really, really great middle grade fantasy adventure story, very much in the same vein as sort of Nevermore, but the tagline is that it's kind of a Nevermore meets Men in Black, which I definitely feel like it was. So we follow Amari, who lives in the kind of normal world, and then her brother goes missing, and then at some point, some months after that, she discovers that he actually didn't go missing in a run away from home kind of way. He went missing because of magical reasons, and she joins an secret magical organization and starts to learn about her own magic and stuff like that. It was really fun, really, really well written, and I just know that I'm going to love Amari and the Great Game as well, which is the next book, and yeah, I'm super excited for Amari to come out. And the second one is also a middle grade, and I just mentioned it before. It is the 4th book in the Nevermore series, which is a series of books about Morrigan Crow. So again, this is the 4th book, so I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail about what the premise of that one is, partly because I actually don't know, but also because it's the 4th book. But Nevermore is the first one, and we follow Morrigan, who is a cursed child. She's cursed to die on her 11th birthday, but she doesn't, and instead she's whisked off to Nevermore, which is a country through a portal from her own country by Jupiter North, and she's put forward into the trials to become a member of the Wondrous Society. So again, quite similar to Amari and the Night Brothers, but yeah, a little bit different. Again, all set in a fantasy world, so not with that crossover to human world, but similar in the sense that there's all this magic and Amari's learning about the world and the magic and the stuff like that. Absolutely beautifully written again, super fun middle grade story, so I'm really, really excited for the next one to come out. And sorry, I don't think I said, it's called Silverborn. I don't know what the subheading is, but yeah, the main book is Silverborn. Question number 5 is asking for the biggest disappointment so far in 2022. Again, I have 2 books for this one, unfortunately. The first one is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Now, I still gave this 3 stars, so I still did enjoy it. It wasn't the worst book I've read ever in my life, but I'd heard so many good things about it. I was expecting it to be at least 4 stars, if not 4.5 or 5 stars, but it just didn't quite get there. I didn't find the writing style particularly compelling, and there were quite a few plot holes which just made the overall story not as enjoyable as it could have been. And yeah, there was the plot holes really that kind of got me. I know that a fantasy story, we need to suspend a certain amount of disbelief, but it it still needs to make internal sense to itself, and there were quite a few things that just didn't kind of match up. Like I said, I just didn't love the writing style either, and yeah, it just kind of, I mean, I still gave it 3 stars. There was still enough to keep me going and keep me wondering what was happening, and say that I had an okay time reading it, but I definitely don't think that it was that amazing, and given all the hype that I'd heard about it and how much so many people love it, I was very disappointed that I wasn't one of them. Pretty disappointed by that one. And the second one that I was quite disappointed by was Bridge of Clay by Markus Zusak. I actually DNF'd this one. It's a really, really chunky book, and my friend Michelle and I were buddy reading it. She got a lot further than I did. She got halfway through, and apparently there was a scene or two that she really, really loved that she wanted me to read so we could talk about, but she wasn't loving it either. I wasn't loving it. I really found the writing style I just couldn't get on board with. It seemed like it potentially would have been quite an interesting book had I sort of forced myself to go through it, but I just couldn't get past the writing style. It was too swappy and changey, and the voices were too similar, so I couldn't distinguish between who we were following at any given time. So yeah, I just couldn't get on board with it, and I ended up DNFing it. And I was very disappointed by this one because Markus Zusak is the author of The Book Thief, which is a book I absolutely loved. So I was really, really hoping that I would enjoy this one. But yeah, like I said, I just couldn't get on board with the writing style. So very disappointed in that one, but them's the breaks, I guess. Not every book is for everyone. Question number 6 asks for the biggest surprise so far in 2022. Again, I have 2 books for this one as well. The first one is a book that I literally finished about an hour and a half ago, and that is The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. I'm surprised by this one, not because I wasn't expecting to like it. I was expecting to like it, but I liked it quite a lot more than I was anticipating. I thought that I'd like it, enjoy it, but I really, really, really loved it. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I may even bump that up to a 5 because, yeah, I did really, really enjoy it, but we'll see how long the feeling sticks around because it was only a very small amount of time ago. I think I liked this one because it was a little bit more in depth than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more YA fun going through portals. There was an aspect of that to it, but there was more around that to do with familial relationships, to do with your own voice and freedom and finding who you are and all sorts of things like that. So really, really enjoyed that one, and yeah, absolutely loved it, and like I said, more than I was expecting that I would. The second one is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. Again, I really enjoyed this one a lot more than I was expecting to. I tried reading this probably a year and a half ago now, maybe even longer, and I was really, really struggling. I was finding it very confusing and just wasn't able to get into it. It could have been the place I was in mentally and emotionally, which is why I couldn't get on board with it, but either way, I just couldn't get on board with it. But I read it in February, I think. I did read The Pale Dreamer, which is a novella that comes before the start of The Bone Season, before I read The Bone Season this time, and it really helped with contextualizing some of what happened in The Bone Season. So I think that definitely has something to do with it. But yeah, I think I was just in a better place, and I really enjoyed The Bone Season. I thought that it was very, very intelligent, very interesting, really well written, and yeah, just really, really enjoyed that one. And I was surprised because I went from finding it too much to really enjoying it, so that's always a nice surprise. I know I said at the beginning that I could just put Heartstopper in for absolutely all of these, but I am actually going to also mention Heartstopper here, and that is because, as you guys know, I'm not a huge graphic novel reader. I didn't kind of grow up with that knowledge of how to read graphic novels and manga and comic books. I know that sounds weird, but it's just not something I've ever really been into. Started trying graphic novels a year or so ago and found that I just wasn't, again, this sounds strange, but wasn't equipped to know how to read them. But I've slowly been kind of developing that a little bit. Obviously, I knew that Heartstopper was a very popular graphic novel series. I've been hearing about it for a long, long time now. When I found out the TV show was coming out, I was excited to see that because I wanted to know what all the fuss is about, and I did think that I would find the TV show more accessible to me than the graphic novels are. Absolutely loved the TV show, and then, as you can see, got all the graphic novels, but I actually really, really enjoyed the graphic novels. I actually found them incredibly easy to read, incredibly enjoyable to read. The graphics as well as the text, and was really surprised by that because, like I said, graphic novels aren't necessarily my thing. So yeah, surprised to find that I have joined the ranks of everyone that I know who loves those graphic novels. So yeah, that has to come here as well. Next question is to name a newest favourite author. So this one is a little bit tricky because you guys might have seen, and I'll link it below, a video I did at some point throughout the year talking about my favourite authors. And what I did say there was that in order to classify an author as a favourite author as opposed to a book or a series of books as favourite books, I have to have read 3 separate works of theirs. So that means like 3 separate series or 3 separate books. I haven't read 3 separate things by any author that I hadn't read before this year, so I found it a bit tricky to think about it from that perspective. But just going off of some of the books that I've read so far and what I really enjoyed about the authors and the writing styles, I have to say Madeline Miller and Laini Taylor. Both of them have beautiful lyrical writing styles. Madeline Miller is a little bit more succinct and concise, whereas Laini Taylor's much more that kind of purpley, very whimsical, very descriptive prose. But I do think it's very purposeful, and I love her turn of phrase. I love the way she writes, and I love Madeline Miller and the way that she writes as well. So both of those authors, I'm really looking forward to reading more of their works and to discovering more about them. So I'm very happy to say Madeline Miller and Laini Taylor for newest favourite author this year. Next question is newest fictional crush. I always find this one quite difficult. I feel like I don't have fictional crushes, but this year I am going to say that the closest I would probably get to a fictional crush would be, again, 2 different people. The first one is, I cannot remember his name, but he is in the book Radiance by Grace Draven. He is the main Kai character. I really appreciated the way that he approached his entire situation. He was betrothed to the woman, and it was a marriage for convenience. Neither of them wanted, they weren't particularly attracted to each other to begin with, and he was very respectful and very open and honest about how he felt and about what he wanted and what he thought they should do, etc., etc. I really, really appreciated that. In the book, he is not supposed to be particularly attractive to begin with because he is from another race and they look quite different and in some respects quite scary to the humans, but as the human character starts to know him and develop feelings for him, she starts to become quite attracted to him, and the way that she describes the attraction made me feel like he was probably very attractive. But yeah, so I'd say him. And then Ryder from Only Always Us. I can't remember the name of the book, by Chloe Leese. It'll be up here anyway. But yeah, he also is another character that I thought was really respectful, really lovely, and just really willing to be open and honest and respectful and all of those things that we want to see from a person. Yeah, definitely I would say Ryder, plus again he sounded like quite a physically attractive person. The next question is your newest favourite character. This one is really, really hard. I feel like I've read a lot of books with some really great characters in them, so yeah, it's hard to pick a favourite. Honourable mentions, contenders to be top favourite character: Nick Nelson from Heartstopper, Charlie Spring from Heartstopper, Laszlo Strange, many other characters, January from the 10,000 Doors of January, Samuel from 10,000 Doors of January, Jane from 10,000 Doors of January. I'm just going to leave it there because I can't think of one particular character that is a favourite of mine, but I can think of a number of characters that I've really loved in a variety of different books that I've read recently. So I'm just going to say the ones I mentioned are contenders for the top. The next question is a book that made you cry. Again, I have 2 for this one. I have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Not sobbing cry, but there was definitely tears in my eyes when I was reading it. Like I said, really, really enjoyed it, but there was a lot of stuff that happened that was quite sad. And then the one that I finished this morning, 10,000 Doors of January, I don't know what it was actually that made me tear up at the end of this book, but yeah, it did make me tear up. Then we have books that made you happy so far this year. And again, I struggled with this question because reading makes me happy, so books in general made me happy. I've been slowly working my way through the Terry Pratchett books this year, so doing that has made me happy because they are some of my favourite books of all time, so I love reading Pratchett, so I'm really happy when I do that. Books that I just mentioned that have favourite characters have all made me really happy. Next question is the most beautiful book that you have bought or received so far this year. Again, I could name any number of books. I think that I've received and bought a lot of really beautiful books this year, but I do have one in particular that is my favourite so far, and that is Electra by Jennifer Saint. As you can see, it has a lot of beautiful gold foiling on it. I just love the colours. The picture is amazing. On the back is that beautiful gold foiling as well. And yeah, I just think this is absolutely stunning and I'm super excited about it. So that is definitely my favourite cover. Next up, we have what is your favourite TV show / movie adaptation? Again, Heartstopper. It's currently my favourite TV show. Absolutely think it's so faithful to the graphic novels, think it's so beautifully done. Everything about it I love, and it was a graphic novel first. The other one is actually The Picture of Dorian Gray. My adaptation isn't a film or a TV show, it's actually a play. Obviously I read the book first, and I absolutely love this particular adaptation. It's really interesting the way that it's done. It's actually one person doing the entire play, and they involve a lot of multimedia aspects to it. So they have this one person and they are playing the different roles, but some of it has been pre-filmed and they have screens actually on stage where you see the same person being one of the characters in the screen, and then you see the same person as a different character reacting to the screen. Camera people on stage who move around and shoot and then show what they're shooting on the screen as well as it's acted. It was really interesting. Not something I'd ever seen before. So well done. The woman who played all the roles was amazing. I don't know who she is, so I will put the details below. It was in Melbourne, like I said, but I believe that it's traveling around the world. But yeah, it was just fantastic, absolutely amazing, so well done, really brought the story to life and just an amazing experience. So that's definitely my favourite adaptation. Those two are my favourite adaptations. Next question is, what is your favourite video that you've made so far this year? I always enjoy making my Roll of Reads videos. This year I ran a month-long readathon throughout the month of March based on my Roll of Reads game, and I did a lot of reading sprints, which are always really fun, and I love doing those as well. And I was really proud of doing that and everything that I did with that. So that whole experience, all the videos involved with that are one of my favourites. My Heartstopper reaction video I'm pretty proud of. The other one that I'm really proud of is the TBR for my Magical Reads the Aurelium Academy readathon that is run by G from Books Roast. I made my own little figure, which is my character's figure. I painted it, and so I introduced my character at the beginning of the TBR video and showed you the character and talked about the character and where they're from and gave you backstory and all that stuff, and then did a TBR, and I'm pretty proud of how that one went. I'm pretty proud of the effort and work I put into this character, and I really like the character, but I'm pretty proud of my work in general. I really enjoy making BookTube videos and I'm pretty proud of what I put out, so yeah. Next up is, what are some books that you need to read before the end of the year? So many books. So many books. I don't know about need to read by the end of the year, but I definitely have quite a lot of books that I would like to read by the end of the year. The two that I mentioned that were my books that have already come out that I haven't read yet, Gallant and Electra. I'd like to read the two books that I mentioned that I'm excited to be released this year, Silverborn and Mari and the Great Game. Last year I read the Part 1 and Part 2 of The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which is the first book. Well, I have Part 1 and Part 2, but it's the first book in the Stormlight archives. But it's been quite a while and they are very dense. So I feel like I'd actually like to reread those and then read the rest of the Stormlight archives. I have only got up to Oathbringer. I haven't got Warbreaker yet. I will at some point get it, but I kind of want to read more and see whether I'm actually going to want to get it. I'm sure I will, but I really like to read these. I really want to read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I don't know how many times I put Six of Crows on a TBR. I never seem to get to it. It's not because I don't want to read it. I absolutely do. I just never seem to find it to be a priority. I don't know why. And I really want to read the rest of the Diviners series before I end up feeling like I have to reread the Diviners for a third time. So yeah, those are just some of the books that I feel like I need to get to by the end of the year. So that is everything. That is the mid-year book freakout tag for 2022. Have you done the book freakout tag for 2022? Let me know in the comments below. What is your favourite book so far this year? If you would like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, then leave me something that is inspired by this cover. Maybe like a little horse emoji, or just a kind of dancing woman emoji, or a knife emoji, something that makes you think of this cover. All of my social media details are listed in the description below, so if you'd like to go and follow me on any of those other platforms, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.